about 2 minutes. You good?
Oh,
You
2
need
minutes.
anything?
All right.
Any questions?
No, I think
You'll be
same
good.
old, same old.
Yep. Same old,
So-
same old.
Yeah, we should be good.
Okay.
Just
Sounds
bail
good.
me out if I get way off the rails.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right, thanks, Kurt. What's that? Yeah, what happened? Why are the chairs off to the sides? Okay, we have school time and we have Bob time. I'm still saying I got a minute.
By all means, take the time.
Well, we have to do this right. We're on the agenda at 5:30, and it's 5:29, so. All right, it's 5:30. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for coming. I'm right now the temporary chairperson, and what I need is, or what we need to do is to elect a chairperson for this meeting. So I'll entertain motions from the floor for a chairperson.
I make a recommendation that we appoint Bob Travis as our chairperson of the meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any others? All right, hearing none. All in favor of me being the chairperson for this annual meeting, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Okay, thank you so much. First order of business then is to approve the agenda as the order of business. I need a motion and a second.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as order of business.
I'll second.
All in favor, say yes. Yes. Opposed? Now we need to approve the annual meeting minutes of the 2023-2024 school year. Need a motion and a second as presented.
I move that we adopt and approve the minutes of the 2023 annual meeting as presented. Second.
All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Okay, item number 6, superintendent report.
All right.
Superintendent Scott Steer.
Thank you, Mr. Travis. Before I dive into our little slideshow here, rapidly approaching 4 whole months on the job, and I just want to give a heartfelt thank you to everybody who I've encountered throughout the past 4 months, and actually the months leading up to that as well. That transition started long before that, but from the people I work with on a day-to-day basis, to the board, to the community members that I've had the pleasure of meeting throughout, particularly in the summer months as I was getting the lay of the land. Everybody's been so supportive and welcoming and interested in the progress of the district, and frankly, the link between the district and the community, which is something I'll talk a little bit more about. So With that as an introduction, again, my thanks, but we'll dive in. I'm sorry. Should have given you a heads up on that. This probably isn't news to the people in this room, but Plymouth Joint School District is comprised of 5 schools. Last year, we served 2,009 students. We have our 3 elementary schools, Horizon, Fairview, and Parkview. Riverview services our students grades 5 through 8, and of course, Plymouth High School grades 9 through 12. What I'd like to do is talk a little bit about our 4 pillars, which the board's been talking a lot about lately, between our values and our pillars. But we've got some things to celebrate from the previous year, and this is just a very quick snapshot. This could be a very long meeting if we would hit all of our celebrations. But within that academic excellence pillar, things that we should be celebrating, we continue to be above the state average in both ELA and math as measured on the state report card. As far as that state report card goes, all of our schools meet, exceed, or significantly exceed expectations laid out by the state. But one of the things we'll be talking a little bit more about is that report card is vital to us. It's a very important indicator, but it's a very small snapshot of all that we do for kids and families throughout the community. So part of the work that we're in the midst of is developing what that scorecard, dashboard, what have you, will look like to paint a much better picture about how we're doing as a complete entity as we service our kids, families, and the community. Another significant celebration, and frankly, this one just wows me, 2024 graduates earned $2 million in scholarships. That is a combination of local scholarships, but then also scholarships that they earned at institutions that they go on to. So I think that says 2 things. One, it speaks to the generosity of our community and the support for our kids, but it also speaks to our ability to prepare our kids for that next step after high school, whatever that path happens to be. So that certainly is to be celebrated. Second pillar is that of extracurricular activities. Mr. Knaus reported out on this in July, but our student participation from the previous year jumped up 7%. Went from 68% to 75% of our kids participating in at least one activity. This is vital. Obviously, it's one of our pillars, but we all know that there is significant data to suggest that a student's both performance in school, but also their overall experience in school is so directly tied to their involvement beyond the classroom. It's so important to whatever path they choose to take, and this is an area that we excel, frankly. And again, participation includes so many things. For a district our size to offer the athletics, the clubs, the arts experiences for our kids is really something that we should feel very proud about. Boys soccer, state runner-up last year. Girls soccer, one-upped them, two-upped them, but back-to-back state champions. That is a significant achievement. That's truly impressive. I talked a little bit about the arts, but when you look at Mary Poppins and Cabaret from last year, 2 things to celebrate here. Well, 3 things maybe. I mean, the overall quality of the productions from what I have heard. I didn't have the ability to attend those. But then the amount of participation we get from our students in those activities, and then the attendance at those events, the support from the community is truly, truly impressive. One thing, I guess I'll steal my own thunder a little bit, I was going to talk a little bit later about, but last night was our first concert here. At the high school, our choir put on their concert. And again, my first one, walking into it. You have a perception from previous experiences as to what you're going to walk into. The reality is I was not quite prepared. I thought I was there early enough, but it was packed, okay? And then to see all of our kids that are participating in Mrs. Smith's programs, truly outstanding. And then you talk about the quality of the talent and the performance throughout. Again, significant thing to celebrate. Okay, moving on to our third pillar, community engagement. I'm going to take a little bit of a tangent here. I think, 1, we have an excellent school district. 2, we are in a truly remarkable community, especially as you look at how the two support one another and work hand in hand. So when we talk community engagement, we are one team, and the more that I learn about our community and our district, the more that this is a tremendous sense of pride. Community education. Community ed is a huge part of what we do as a district. Number of participants that partook in our classes last year, almost 2,500 individuals. Now, I want to be clear, and Carla, you can correct me, but if I understood correctly, this is number of people. This is not the number of entrants we had into classes. So many of these individuals partook in more than one class, I am certain. So these are just the number of different individuals that partook in our community ed classes. Childcare. This is a topic that we continue to talk greatly about. Serviced 200 children last year in 23-24, and as we all learned from our report at the last meeting, this is an area that we need to continue to find ways to increase our capacity to offer childcare to our families. We have a waiting list, and it's an area that every community is struggling with, but I believe we can really find some creative solutions to this. Volunteer hours. I believe it's our junior class currently that will be required to have obtained 25 hours of community service volunteer hours as part of their graduation requirements. I think that's fantastic. As our kids go through the system, we're going to see more and more students that are giving back to the community. And again, yes, it's a requirement, but we're trying to instill that idea of giving back and service and things of that nature. Scholarship support we already spoke about. And then attendance at student events. I talked a little bit about the concert last evening, but I put parade up here. And again, my first homecoming parade, and we had our floats and we were giving out oodles. I mean, we couldn't carry all the candy, so we loaded up Tom's truck and we made sure we were maxing that out. But the reality was we were toward the end of the parade where we were staged. And all of a sudden, we hadn't even started yet, and the band is coming around the corner because the parade is so long. They're already done, and we haven't even started yet. And then to be walking down the main drag and seeing all of the people when you come around that corner, the one thing I've told people is I need to do a better job of looking up and seeing everything that's going on because I was so focused on the kids and delivering candy, which is important. But the reality is this is another area that separates us from other districts. And the reality is we have such tremendous support from everybody in the community. It's fabulous. And finally, financial responsibility. Attract and retain excellent people. This is something that we do a very good job at. We currently have one certified position that we believe, close to filling, but we're doing better than most districts from what I'm hearing in that area as far as attracting and retaining. With that being said, this is going to become more and more of an issue for all of us moving forward because we have fewer people coming into the educational field. So what happens a lot of times is you're stealing from your neighbors in some cases and things like that. We need to foster an environment, continue to foster an environment where not only are we creating that culture where people want to come to us, but we're finding ways to make sure kids who leave us have already started the exploration of that educational and human services pathway so that they know whether it's a fit and we can promote their exploration of that and progress toward becoming a teacher, becoming a paraprofessional, you name it. Healthy fund balance, Amy Williams will be talking about this, but this is a great indicator of the overall financial health of the district. The fact that we do not have to short-term borrow is fantastic, and it speaks to our overall health. And we also were able to tackle some significant maintenance projects this past year. The chiller right here at the high school was installed, and also we took care of the Fairview roof, and those were significant undertakings. Amy will be chatting a little bit more about some other potential projects coming up. So last slide, the work ahead. We will never be content, and we will always look for continuous improvement. But some things that we continue to talk about and are on the front burner for us, Again, attract and retain excellent staff. It all starts there, the people who are in front of our kids. Improve student achievement. This will be a goal that is ongoing every single year. We talk a lot about Act 20 and the changes to reading that the state is bringing about. My thanks to Dina and so many within the district who have already undergone training, who are preparing for this transition, for this adoption. I will tell you that we are very well prepared, and I see Dina smiling a little bit because we wait on information. We are where we can be at this point, and as soon as we get more information that comes out, we're ready to go on those things because of that preparation. We're going to continue to seek to increase the rigor for our kids, okay, raise the bar, and do so with additional student opportunities, whether it's in the classroom, whether it's out of the classroom, and so on. Finding things that hook our kids and give them a place. Increase student enrollment. This is something that everybody, it seems, throughout the state is grappling with because we have fewer kids. That's our reality. How are we going to tackle that? There is no silver bullet. But I think two things really come to the forefront in my mind. One, we are going to continuously improve. We're going to seek to get better in all areas. And then we got to tell our story and make sure we're relaying what we're doing and what we're about to other people. The second piece of that, I am extremely encouraged by working with the city or being part of those city meetings, looking at housing for our newer families, making sure that we have a place for people who want to come to Plymouth. Things are on the horizon, and so we're extremely encouraged and excited about that because it betters the entire community to have new families moving here, not just the school district. Increased work-based learning participation. Again, having students, fostering a path by which students can explore different careers, and when they walk that stage at graduation, have a plan in mind. So it's not, yay, we graduated, there's certainly that, but we want kids to know what that next step is. We don't want any uncertainty for them. Increased capacity to provide childcare, we spoke about that. Establish Fund 46 to assist with long-range planning. Amy spoke to that at our last meeting. Accessing and creating that account. You won't be able to touch those funds for 5 years. However, as we talk about long-range planning, it will be an asset for us. And lastly, I'm not going to belabor this one. We have been speaking a great deal about this, but frankly, I'm very excited about this. The board has reviewed the values of the board and also, therefore, the community. We've spoken about those 4 pillars and reaffirmed those. I just mentioned those 4 pillars. But now the admin team, as recent as between 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock this afternoon, talked more about our key performance indicators, how we're going to measure those, what's realistic, to identify the things that we're going to measure on a year-in, year-out basis. And that will assist all of us with our goal setting each and every year and the strategic planning for every school, for every department, each and every year as well. And then we got to determine whether we're going to call that one-page snapshot a dashboard or a scoreboard or a scorecard. Those things will be resolved, but we're getting closer, and I'm excited about those things. So with that, again, my thanks to everybody. My thanks to everybody who's here this evening, and looking forward to a great presentation by Mrs. Williams.
Okay, thanks, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Dan, I don't have a PowerPoint, so. Next item is the President's report. So I'll just take you through my observations of the past year and where we're headed, where I believe we're headed, what we've discussed. Last year, when I reviewed what I said in my annual report, the key thing we had as work for us to do as a board was to select the predecessor, the person that would follow Dan Mella. And Dan Mella left us in a good place. He helped marshal us through COVID and put us on firm footing. And it was going to be a challenge to find the right person to come in behind him. And it was a good exercise. As a board, we reviewed what we felt was important. We reviewed the pillars. We talked about what we felt our needs were, what leadership changes we should look for, what qualities we should look for in a new leader to help guide us for the challenges that lay ahead. And Scott, you were our shining star. You came through the interview process and you hit all the right levers, you pulled all the right levers, you rang the bell. And we're very excited to have you here because we believe you fit what we identified as what we need next in leadership. So
Thank you.
we're excited and we're here to support you and your staff as we move forward. And it's change. And with change comes challenges. And it's not going to be easy. There's going to be hard work ahead, and you've already identified a lot of it. It's reassuring to me that without talking to you about what you were going to talk about, you're hitting on our pillars and values and everything else. And that's refreshing because it just shows the organization that we're on the same page and we're all interested in achieving what's best for our kids as well as what's best for our community. So that's exciting. The challenges, as I see, academics, that's a forever challenge. We always want to be better, and we want more for our kids. I think the post-pandemic era has left a gap for us, and that's a big challenge. How do we address that? The needs of our students, it's stratified. There's just a wide range of needs there, and we have to look at that as a community and a school and as families. We have to support that, and we have to find a new way forward and do the most to get every child in a place that they can be and achieve their personal best. And I said that for Sally, and she's not even here, but anyway, it's exciting though when you think about it. That's why we're comprehensive. That's what we committed to a long time ago, what this board committed to a long time ago when they identified this school as a comprehensive high school. We continue to reinforce that year in and year out, and that's the role ahead. The emerging challenge, I believe, is health. We have always focused on physical health, on nutritional health. Our greenhouse, great example of our focus on nutrition. But mental health now has become a very big challenge for our district. And all of us will have to look at where are those opportunities to connect. And we talk about extracurriculars. Key piece of mental health is involvement and getting our students involved and keeping them engaged and involved. Key piece to mental health is to have the families engaged and involved in our school system. It's going to be a big challenge, but I believe we've already made a commitment and we're in a good place to move forward, and I'm excited about what we will achieve in the coming year. Childcare, early learning. I can't say enough about this. I believe it is a key piece for us. It's a key piece for our district to lead, to really help the community in what is a national topic. How do we support young families? How do we support the new child that comes into our world? And we can play a very important role. We are experts in child care. We are experts in educating the young, and we should take a lead in that. But it should be collaborative. It shouldn't be just the school operating as an island. It's how do we reach out with the community and really embrace other groups in the community that have the same goals of providing quality childcare and affordable childcare. And that'll help our community, if we can do it right and make childcare more affordable, it'll make this community more attractive, make it easier for families to look at buying a house. It's really, I believe, a big item that we should pursue. And then finally, financial, as we discussed, financial, our schools, public schools will always be challenged with the current funding mechanisms that we have to work with. We brag about being a low spending district on a per pupil basis. Not sure that's what we should be bragging about. We should be bragging about all the great things that we're able to do and deliver for our students. But being a low spending per pupil district is really challenging when we have declining enrollments. It's going to put a lot of pressure on all of us, and we really need to think creatively as to where is the money going to come from, and how can we do and deliver all these other services with the budgets that we have. So a lot of work to do. But that's the thing about change and challenge. It's actually really exciting. And especially when you're on the right team and you have a great team of people around you and a community that supports you, I think this is going to be an exciting year. And I think our homecoming parades are only going to get longer as long as we can stay focused on what's important to everyone in this community. So with that, that's my report, and all I can add to that is go Panthers. With that, we'll move on to the budget hearing and summary, and Amy, it's up to you.
I guess so. Okay. All right, well, we're just going to dive right in. So this is a budget overview of how school districts use accounting to govern their budgets. So school districts use fund accounting principles, and a fund is an accounting entity with a self-balancing set of accounts used to record assets, liabilities, a fund balance, and revenues and expenses, which will change your fund balance. There's a difference between general accounting and fund accounting. In general accounting, you have one account, you have revenues going in and expenses going out of that same account. In fund accounting, like ours, we have different funds for different departments. So we have a special ed fund, we have a food service fund, community service, our general ledger, and things like that. So each fund has all of the different types of accounting structures. So we currently we have instructional funds, which are our Fund 10, 21, and 27. We have debt service funds, which are Fund 38 and 39. We have capital project funds, Funds 46 and 49. Food service and community funds are Fund 50 and Fund 80. And we have trust funds of Fund 72. Every fund that we have uses a set of accounts within it to record all transactions that affect the balance of the fund. So there's asset accounts, liability accounts, equity accounts, revenue, and expense accounts. For example, our general account, which is Fund 10, has thousands of accounts and account combinations that indicate the type, location, object or source, function, and project of the account. And it helps us indicate what it was for, where it came from, things like that. So I have just two examples of an actual account. On the left is a revenue account. The location is the district, and the source is our aid, our equalized aid. And then we have a function of $500,000, so we know that that's a revenue account. On the right is an example of an expense account, and you can see we have a location math, grades 9 through 12. We have a location for every single subject and grade and department, club, everything you could think of. And then we have objects for every single thing that we could possibly spend money on, and then functions to go along with each location. So they're long, and, we have so many account numbers, but each fund that we have has account numbers that are similar to this. So tonight, we're going to be focusing on revenue and expense accounts in Fund 10 and 27, which are our operating accounts. So we're first going to go over revenues and talk about the revenue limit. In 1993, Wisconsin Act 16 implemented a limit or control on the maximum amount of revenue a school district is entitled to receive each year through general state aid and local tax levies. At the time, Plymouth was a low spending per pupil district, which is what the revenue limit was based off of. All Wisconsin school districts have to operate within their revenue limit, which is formulated by the state. But each school district receives a different per pupil amount, so revenue limits vary from district to district. In 2023, Plymouth School District ranked as the following out of 420 Wisconsin school districts. We ranked number 253 in state revenue per pupil, which was $7,724. We ranked number 277 in property tax revenue per pupil, which was $5,376. And we ranked number 349 in total district cost per pupil at $15,332. The state takes your costs of educating a student, transporting a student, feeding a student, sheltering a student, any community service costs that are associated with that student. And that's how they come up with a total district cost. In comparison, the number 1 school district in Wisconsin has a total district cost per pupil of $33,655, which is more than double what we have. So this is just an example of how the revenue limits that were set 31 years ago are still impacting Wisconsin school districts, especially those like us who were considered low spending back in 1993. Our revenue limit for this school year is calculated, all revenue limits every year are calculated using the average student count over the last 3 years multiplied by the per pupil revenue limit set by the state budget. We currently have a declining 3-year rolling average on our student count. You can see on the left that our student count has gone down. Last year, it went down a lot. We talked about losing about 100 students. This year, it did not go down nearly as much as what I was projecting, so that was a positive. Our average student count continues to decline, which then affects our revenue limit and our declining enrollment exemption. So the revenue limit this year is based on $11,325 per student. The base revenue went from $11,000 to $11,325, so it went up $325 this year per student. But the low revenue ceiling increase is 0 for all districts that are at the very minimum per pupil base revenue, which is us, which is that $11,325. So our revenue limit as calculated, as you see it, our 3-year rolling average of students this year is 2,033. We take that multiplied by the base revenue limit of $11,325. They add in declining enrollment exemption, which basically says that you cannot operate on a lower revenue limit than you had the previous year due to declining enrollment. And then we have a small amount of rescinded taxes added back in that we had to pay. And then they add in your private school vouchers, which increased. We'll talk about that in another slide. So our revenue limit for 24-25 is $24,442,192, which is only a 2% increase from last school year. The revenue limit makes up about 76% of our annual budget. Other sources of revenue above the revenue limit are state and federal grants, and then we receive categorical aid. which is special education aid, library aid, computer aid, and then we have just small line items of other revenue sources like fees, admission, E-rate program, focus on energy, and interest revenue. So last year, I had this in my slide, and I think it was pretty well received. It was interesting for people to see, so I left it in here just to show how far behind public education is in keeping up with the cost of inflation, the rise of inflation. And one of the main points in this slide is to just show that in 2009-10, that was the first year that revenue limits were decoupled from inflation. Prior to that, the increase in revenue limits had to stay in line with the cost of inflation. And you can see over the years how taking that away has affected public school districts when it comes to the change in per pupil that we have not received. So this is just a good example of how far behind we are in funding. So our equalized aid is a source of funding for school districts. And last year, we received $13,942,893 from the state. And this year, we're receiving $13,968,217, which is only an increase of $25,324, which is less than 0.2. So when the increase in equalized aid is less than our revenue limit increase, then we have less aid is received than the revenue limit, and that will result in a tax levy increase for operations. So let's talk about the tax levy. Our tax levy this year in 24-25 is $10,297,504, and you can see we take the revenue limit and you take away your equalized aid that you get from the state, and then you take away your property aids, that's your computer aid, and that gives you an allowable revenue, which is basically the state saying, we're going to give you this amount, and this is the maximum that you can impose for a tax levy. So our suggested tax levy this year for our general fund is the $10,297,504. Then we have referendum debt service payments, and that is $2,968,725, and then community education is still $185,000. So our total tax levy this year is $13,451,229. Board members, you will, in your board packet, you will find a notice of change in the adopted budget form, just to reflect the changes from our meeting in September. So this is a graph just showing our levy comparison over the last 6 years, 5-6 years. You can see that this year is one of the, well, it's the highest in that amount of time. We have an increase of about $450,000 this year in our tax levy. However, our mill rate dropped this year to $6.04. There's a lot of data, a lot of years on this graph, but this is the lowest our mill rate has been in the last 31 years. So anytime we have an increase in property value in our taxing district, the mill rate's going to go down, which we did. It was roughly around 7% this year, increase in our values. So the result is a lower mill rate. So here are some revenue changes that we have in our budget this year. The local sources are going up a little bit. Interdistrict, which is open enrollment, that would be open enrollment in, is increasing. We have some CESA sources that we get some revenue from. The state is actually decreasing. Federal sources is decreasing. That is because ESSER funds are now exhausted, no longer are in our budget. And then we have a little bit for like refunds and rebate programs that we participate in. But our interfund transfer, which is the transfer that we have to cover special ed costs that are not covered by grants or categorical aid, increased very significantly. So, but overall, the decrease in our revenue is not, I mean, it's significant, but it's not horrible. We have pie graphs that go all the way back to 2012, just to show that our revenue has stayed pretty static over the last, well, these are not every single year, but I think there's like 8 years in here. As we continue to go through, the state amount doesn't change much, the equalized aid hasn't changed much, which is a good explanation of why public schools are where they are at. So then let's go into the expense portion of our budget. And the first thing we're going to talk about is salary and benefits, which makes up 80% of our budget. Due to the nature of our business, people are the most important thing that we have here. Our wages and salaries for this school year actually decreased. We made some staffing changes this school year to better align with our declining enrollment. Our benefits are up a little bit, mostly because of health insurance renewal. But the total overall increase in expenses is minimal, 0.21% for salary and benefits. Some personnel and benefit changes that we have this year are salary and wage increases averaged 4% for all staff that were not at the maximum pay for their position. Our special education budget has an increase of $360,000 from last school year. It's a 7% increase in cost. The state has a reimbursement rate of 32.4% of the previous year's eligible special education costs, which is important to know because as our expenses increase year to year, our reimbursement rate is based off of a lower amount from the previous year. The remaining costs that are not reimbursed are the responsibility of the district. Our WRS rates, I had that this was going to remain flat, which is why there's an emoji up there, because Scott wanted me to say it's going to increase 0.05%. So it's going up very, very minimally. Our district health insurance policy incurred a 6.2% rate increase. That was the lowest increase that we could find. And we had to move from a fully insured insurance plan to a self-funded insurance plan. Our district dental insurance policy went up 19% with minimal plan changes, but we implemented a 10% employee premium this year to control the costs of that. Other expense budget changes that we have, services went up a bit. Our inter-district open enrollment, this is open enrollment out, went up about 125,000. Supplies remaining pretty much the same. Capital equipment is up a little. There's some technology hardware in the budget that we have. Our insurance premium increased about $40,000. And other is pretty much the same. And you can see again, our interfund transfer is significantly higher than last year. So this group of expense items has an increase of about $1 million. So these pie charts are of our actual expenses over the years, just showing that salaries and benefits have always remained about the same, taking up the same amount of our budget. I did go back and add, starting in 22-23, the special ed transfer that we have to make each year so that we could see how that impacts our expenses. In 22-23, it was 8% of our budget. In 23-24, it was 9% of our budget. And it's projected to be 10% of our budget in 24-25. So some expense changes to note. The Fairview roofing project, which is complete, is included in this budget as an expense. It's $350,000 as we wait for the TID closure funds to arrive and offset that cost. We talked about that in September, that we're hoping that they close that all before June 30th. We have a special education student that requires different services this year. Again, we talked about this in September also, but that expense is budgeted at $200,000, and that is the responsibility of the district. The state does offer a high-cost special education aid program, quote-unquote, but the reimbursement rate is only 25% of the total cost, and we cannot claim that or receive that until the following fiscal year. So we expense $200,000. Next year, we can claim it and get 25% back. Our property value for our insurance policy increased by $18.6 million, which was a 12% increase, which resulted in an increase in our property insurance by $40,000, which was a 23% increase. In addition, they added deductibles ranging from $25,000 to $75,000 automatically for windstorm or hail damage, and we were unable to change those or take those off. So many slides ago, I stated that we have a 2% revenue limit increase, and we're talking about 23% increase in one expenditure line, 12%, 7%. So the expenses just don't keep, we'll flip that narrative. The revenue limit is not keeping up with the expenses. So in 24-25, our total revenues and expenses are projecting a deficit of $700,910. But again, it's important to note that $350,000 is for the Fairview project, and we have that $200,000 in additional special ed services. If we didn't have those, we would be looking at about $150,000 deficit, $50,000 deficit, which is very good considering all of this information wrapped up together. Our open enrollment expense, it's remained relatively the same. It was a little higher last school year. This school year, it's projected to go back down to what it has been. The private school voucher expense, though, continues to increase every year. You may remember last year, we had a 48% increase in private school vouchers. This year, we have a 13% increase from last year's increase. So in 2 years, that's a 61% increase in private school voucher cost. The voucher payment increase and its impact on the tax levy, it can be pretty substantial. This chart shows that there's a great disparity between the increase in how much the voucher program received in amounts versus the public school district in our revenue limit per pupil, which was the $325 that I mentioned. So the light colored line is 23-24, the middle is 24-25, and then the far right number is the total in those 2 years. So a voucher for grades 9 through 12 increased, $3,700 in 2 years, and public school, the per pupil increase was $650. Some additional budget items that we just want to point out. We have 2 large projects that are currently ongoing and hoping to be completed by next summer. We have 2 air handling units at the high school that need to be replaced. And the Horizon Elementary entrance, we've talked about this before. was kind of put on pause with everything that had happened over there. We are revamping, that project, getting back into that, so we're hoping to be able to get on the books for that next summer. And we'll continue to work with the Facilities Committee to prioritize those capital maintenance projects as we have funding. The food service program is a self-sustaining program. They have to generate enough revenue to cover their expenses. They continue to serve healthy meals and meet nutritional requirements. They are fully staffed right now, and we do have a new food service director, Jenny Gelzer. She has worked for us for the last 4 years, so we're really excited to have her. Increased food costs are still a struggle, but participation is up so far this year. I think she said on a daily basis at the high school, they're serving 100 plus more lunches a day since we implemented the CEP program. So breakfast and lunch are free to all students this year due to that program. We're going to continue to monitor that throughout the year because any additional cost or expense, like we stated, has to come out of their fund balance. So they ended last school year with a loss of about $85,000 from their fund balance, but they currently have a fund balance of $475,000, which is very healthy for a food service department to have. The budget is projecting a deficit for them this year of about $56,000 due to higher food costs and the CEP program, but we'll see and monitor how that goes, throughout the year. Again, that program is in a very healthy, stable state right now, and even this projected deficit does not change that. They're doing very well. Our community education program ended the school year last year with a loss of about $54,000 to their fund balance. It's not a concern right now. It's a lot of it due to increased staffing and some additional expenses. But we are projecting a deficit of about $65,000 for this school year. Again, that's offset by their fund balance. And they do continue to receive a lot of grant funds. However, their levy this year is still suggested to be $185,000. But years ago, community education assumed the cost and the expense of the middle school extracurricular program. So all of the coaching pay and all of the costs of those programs now come out of community ed. If their funding, if they don't have enough to cover the cost of a program, then that program is no longer offered. And with the fact that they lost revenue last year, or they lost last year, and we have a projected deficit this year, keeping an eye on their fund balance, I think it's around $250,000, but if we continue to see a pattern like this, then we may be suggesting that we increase that tax levy to help offset some of the additional costs that they have incurred for so many years. So looking ahead to 25-26, our student count is going to continue to be monitored to manage the potential impacts of that. As Scott said, the housing projects that are going to be starting in Plymouth, we're excited. We're hoping they have a positive impact on our community and our student population. Private school vouchers are going to continue to increase, and it's just an additional cost to our community and our taxpayers. It's not revenue to the school district. So we just continue to watch information about that. The district will be receiving approximately $650,000 from the TID closure, which we've talked about. Those funds are going to be used for the Fairview project that we've already completed, and then the Horizon Entrance project. Our health and dental insurance programs are always reviewed in depth, trying to keep those costs and those increases to a minimum. And we will continue to operate as a fiscally responsible district, always finding innovative ways to provide services for our students and attract and retain the best staff that we can. And we are really in a good fiscally sound position. Our fund balance is approximately $9.6 million, which is very healthy. And, we just continue to prepare and be ready for the challenges that are ahead. My favorite slide. Any questions? It's a lot of information.
Any questions for Amy? If there are no questions, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the tax levy as recommended. I'll need a motion and second.
Make a motion to approve the tax levy as recommended. Second.
Is there any other discussion? All in favor, say yes. Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? All right, thank you, Amy. Nice job.
You're welcome.
Item 10, we need to authorize the school board to engage in legal counsel during the 2024-2025 school year. Our legal counsel, Scott, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah.
There's no change, but
No change, still going with RLL, Renning, Lewis and Lacey. We utilize them from time to time for numerous reasons, whether it's contractual, whether we have special education issues, you name it, but they're a valued partner.
okay. So I need a motion to approve the legal counsel, to engage in legal counsel during the 2024-2025 fiscal school year.
I move that we approve engaging in legal counsel during the 2024-2025 fiscal year.
All in favor, say yes.
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 Opposed? All right, item 11 is to authorize salaries for the school board members for the 2024-2025 school year. This item is unchanged from the prior year, and I had it listed here. Salary of $1,000 for 12 meetings, a $25 per meeting for additional meeting, $50 daily stipend for travel outside the district, and $100 for members that serve on the negotiations committee. I need a motion to accept the salaries as listed.
Make a motion to accept the salaries of the school board members for the 24-25 school year. 24-25 year. Second.
And any discussion? All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? And finally, we need to set the date and time for the next annual meeting. And we're suggesting October 21st, 2025 at 5:30 PM. And that should be enough time, given the state
Yep.
information, right?
Yep.
So I need a motion for that proposed meeting date.
I make a motion, we set the date and time for next annual meeting, October 21st, 2025 at 5:30. Suggested.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? All right. And now at this time, presentation from the floor of business appropriate to the annual meeting. Is there anyone that signed up? All right. Well, that takes us to item 14. I need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn. Second.
All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Thank you all for coming. Our meeting is adjourned.
Right.
Oh, that's right.
Yep.
You guys have to stay here, right? We
Yeah.
have to,
Yeah, don't go anywhere.
all right. I almost forgot that part.
No, it's quick. kind of perfunctory.
Yes, but we have to, because of the timing, we have to approve what we just did in this meeting. So it's just a call to order and then,
Yes, it's just going to be about 2 minutes.
so 2 minutes, right?
The exact, I don't have the exact.
Okay, so,
That's not on here. But he might.
all right. I'm going to call our meeting to order. And item A, I need a motion to consider the approval of the certification of the 2024-2025 school district tax levy.
Make a motion to consider the approval of certification of the 24-25 school district tax levy.
A second.
All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? All right. Item B, consider approval of the 2024-2025 final budget as proposed.
Make a motion that we approve the 24-25 final budget.
I'll
Second?
second.
All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? All right. Item 2, I need a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say yes. Yes, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.